quite a disconnect happening here at the White House and with their allies in Kyiv, because I have been told by a senior official here that nothing's going to happen with this minerals deal until Zelensky goes in front of cameras and makes an explicit public apology for the way that he behaved himself, behaved in the Oval Office with that meeting. But Zelensky is out there now saying that he thinks he can still get this minerals deal without saying sorry.
So, unfortunately, we have someone that is occupying the White House, and as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States. He swore an oath just like the rest of us. But right now, when you are literally putting us at risk, all because of what? Because you want to convince your followers that you should be a dictator too, that you should never leave the White House, because you don't believe that elections should take place. I don't really understand what is going on, and I don't know what it's going to take to get people to wake up.
Yes, President Trump slammed Zelensky for his recent statement. When you take a look at what he sent out on Truth Social, this is the worst statement that could have been made by Zelensky, and America will not put up with it for much longer. It is what I was saying. This guy doesn't want there to be peace as long as he has American backing, and Europe, in the meeting they had with Zelensky, stated flatly that they cannot do the job without the U.S. Probably not a great statement to have been made in terms of a show of strength against Russia. What are they thinking? When you take a look here down, Ukraine, Zelensky says end of war with Russia is very, very far away. Trump is offended by this statement. You can clearly see his mindset. This is Monday, and Libras came back with reactions. I want to show you what they are saying. I understand you don't watch some of them. I did that for you. Reasons I decided to make this video very short.
If Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Putin believe that they're going to intimidate and bully and threaten President Zelensky to join the club of corrupt and unprincipled leaders, they will literally need to wait until hell freezes over twice, because this is a man who is committed to the survival of his country.
The propaganda is what's coming out of J.D. Vance's mouth, and it's Russian propaganda.
I saw the meeting as a despicable display of bullying by the president.
It was Vice President Vance, particularly, who was on the offense, who was berating President Zelensky.
It is absolutely shameful what is happening right now. The White House has become an arm of the Kremlin.
I just have never felt such shame about American policy before, and I don't know how our allies trust us after this.
Putin and his cronies are probably popping champagne bottles right now.
We have someone that is occupying the White House, and as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States.
First off, they've got to change the fact that on the 17th of January, the British signed an agreement with Ukraine to have exclusive rights to those deals. Kershaw, this is a battle of dueling narratives. You can go check it out. This is on the British-UK website. It talks about this 100-year, Ukraine and UK signed a 100-year deal over security guarantees and economic development. So what happened is that I believe President Trump and his team found out that they were being played. So this has become a set of dueling narratives. The BBC just said today there's massive protests here. Zach Andrews just said all the European leaders are behind Zelensky. We are being played. We, the United States, are trying to be signed up to a deal that we provide security guarantees to a economic development deal that Keir Starmer has already signed them up to do. So the first thing it has to do is people have to take a step back and be honest with what's really going on. And so I think what happened here, I don't know the details. It wasn't in that meeting. But Kershaw, the president was trying to play a straight line deal to sign an agreement with them over this mineral rights deal, knowing full well that the British had already signed on this 3 days before his inauguration. So where we go from here is both sides, if this is going to work, if the Europeans really want our help, they're going to have to take a step back and start being honest with the United States about what's really going on.
Yes, this just reminded me of a video I watched a few hours ago. Zelensky was asked, like, where is all the money the United States gave, and will you pay back? His response was simple. Like, he thought it was just a gift, it was not a debt. So according to Zelensky, all the money the United States poured in Ukraine was just for free. It is crazy that Biden didn't continue. Trump coming into power will actually open this guy's eyes. Now a lot of people are calling for his resignation. Do you know what he's saying? He can resign unless they decide to make Ukraine part of NATO. That is what this guy. I don't know how delusional this guy can be.
Quite a disconnect happening here at the White House and with their allies in Kyiv, because I have been told by a senior official here that nothing's going to happen with this minerals deal until Zelensky goes in front of cameras and makes an explicit public apology and the war in Ukraine, and to make a deal with Ukraine on the way forward. But after Friday's Oval Office dust-up, Republicans don't care if peace happens with Zelensky in charge or somebody else, although nobody is saying yet who they think a suitable Zelensky replacement could be.
Something has to change. Either he needs to come to his senses and come back to the table in gratitude, or someone else needs to lead the country to do that. I mean, it's up to the Ukrainians to figure that out. But I can tell you that we are re-exerting peace through strength.
And we're hearing now that President Trump plans to talk about the end of the war in Ukraine at some point tomorrow, one day closer to his self-imposed deadline to end the war within the first 100 days back in office. Harris?
All right, great reporting on you to get that nugget. I mean, they want an explicit apology from Zelensky. Have we seen anything to maybe point to that actually happening?
No, nothing. I've heard that Zelensky's team have been calling their counterparts here at the White House, but it just does not seem like anything is going to happen unless President Trump changes his mind and doesn't want a public apology. Nothing is going to happen. They are not going to get this deal, and they are basically going to be in the timeout chair with the way that the White House sees it until he comes up and says, I am sorry for the way that I acted.
Wow, the Ukrainian president literally taking it. Call a friend when you're losing. But this isn't a game show.
Yes. Do you know what is more shocking? Libras are shocked that majority of Americans agree with what Trump is doing. When you take a look at this, even CNN is forced to admit that Americans are much happier with how Trump is handling the Russia-Ukraine war than with how Biden handled it. Holy cow, it is just a different planet entirely. The gulf between these two is wider than the Gulf of America. Along the way, when this happened at the White House, the mainstream media took a different narrative. The way they portrayed Trump, like, oh, he wanted to do this, he wanted to do this, thinking people will fall for that. But time has changed. People don't fall again for all these cheap ways that is usually put out. Look at this. If CNN is reporting this, then you know it is bad. These are the people that can twist things, but they can't do it any longer because this is the truth.
I think the easiest way we can kind of just ask this is, do Americans like the way that Trump's handling his job and compare it to how they felt about Joe Biden? So this is the net approval rating. You look at Joe Biden back in 2024, he was 22 points underwater. Holy cow. You look at Donald Trump, it's just a different planet entirely. I mean, the gulf between these two is wider than the Gulf of America or Mexico, depending on which side of the aisle you stand on. He's at +2. So look, at this particular point, Americans are giving Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt. He's doing considerably better than Joe Biden was doing on the handling of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And so on this simple question, I think Americans are saying, okay, Donald Trump's doing all right on this.
What about specifically on how they feel about bringing the war to an end?
Yeah, okay. So, look, questions on this can be quite complicated, but I think this kind of gets at sort of where the American trend line is. Americans on the Russia-Ukraine war want a quicker end of the war, but Russia keeps its captured land. Look at this, 50%, bare majority coming in here, support Ukraine's right to fight, even if it means a longer war. That's at 48. This is very, very close. But the trend line on this question is so important because that want a quick end of the war, look at this. You go back to August of 2022, it was at 31%. Now we're at 50%. I mean, that is a rocket ship upwards in terms of the Americans who want a quick end to the war, even if it means Russia keeps the captured Ukraine land. Americans are moving closer and closer to wanting a compromise, even if it means that Ukraine doesn't really get what it set out to want, at least at the beginning of this war.
I thought it was chilling, and I just want to note 62% of Americans support Ukraine.
I don't think you asked anybody how they felt, how people who voted for you. You didn't ask them how they feel about what you're doing. You didn't ask them if they want to be operatives of Putin's government. You haven't asked that.
Donald Trump makes an issue of how he is dressed.
Yeah.
Well, you know who else showed up during a war dressed in uniform during World War II? Winston Churchill. I think we have the picture. Mm-hmm. And nobody said anything. I think that is a red herring because, and I mean, you know what he's wearing? What he's wearing because he is representing people suffering, because he is representing a country at war.
And without the Susan Rice, without the approval and of the president. So President Trump knew that J.D. Vance was going to do that, and I think it really took a turn when Zelensky, with his bravery and with his courage, said to J.D. Vance, "Have you ever been to Ukraine?" No. So he embarrassed the bully. And
yes, tackling the view. So now Austin saying, "Oh, J.D. Vance was embarrassed." I didn't see that. Asking J.D., "Have you ever been to Ukraine?" There are a couple of videos. In fact, it's just I cannot put the videos here where people are being picked up on the street and forced to go and fight. I have seen that. There was one woman I saw. She was crying. I have a baby. They had to force her inside the car. So it is happening. You must not need to go to Ukraine before you see this. I put out videos here every day in different countries. I have never been there. We see it. Thank you guys for always being there, sharing on my videos. God bless you abundantly. And please, for the clips behind here, that is just for the YouTube algorithm. You can stop here if you want.
If he needs an apology. Wow. I know, I'm going to get killed on social media for admitting that, but so be it. And the fact is that it doesn't matter whether Vice President Vance planned it or just took the opportunity to bait Zelensky. Zelensky took the bait, okay? Yeah. And
what happened at the White House today?
Today, Donald Trump irreparably destroyed the 80-year-old post-World War II international order.
An Oval Office ambush of an American ally that will reverberate all around the world and stain America's image for years to come.
That was, to say the least, the most contentious confrontation between world leaders perhaps we have ever seen, certainly on television.
It was a truly historic moment, not in the good way. One that I fear realigned the world order, upending the only foreign policy consensus that most living Americans and Europeans have ever known.
A complete and utter mess. We don't gain anything by acting like bullies, and this is what bullies do.
I think there's no question that this was a setup. You heard Donald Trump say at the end of that clip you played, this is great television.
To issue an apology tonight?
Absolutely.
All right, but what else is going on? Not much.